Hello and welcome to Twin Talk. This is Angie and I'm here with Joy, and we're getting ready to talk about the biography Natalie Wood. It's by Suzanne Finstead and it was released March the 10th of 2020. So fairly new book. And one thing about it I didn't know was it was on the New York Times bestseller list, which anytime it's on the New York Times bestseller, it's a good book. So Natalie Wood was born Natalia Nikolaevna Zakharenko. I'm doing my best here. On July 20th, 1938, and she died November 29th, 1981. She was an American actress who began her career in film as a child and successfully transitioned to young adult roles. She was the recipient of 4 Golden Globes and received 3 Academy Award nominations. So before we begin this discussion, I was just talking to Joy right before we hit record. We were talking about how a lot of our podcasts, we've discussed the book and, we've discussed it together. We've got each other's opinions. But this is one of those books we haven't had time to talk about. So, Joy, I'm kind of excited because I want to hear your thoughts on some of the things about her life.
Right.
So,
yeah, we have not had a chance to even talk about this book with each other, so I'm interested to see what your thoughts as well.
Yeah, and did you realize that you listened to it on Audible?
Yeah, I listened to it. I didn't actually read the book. I just listened to it on Audible.
Do you realize it was 20 hours long?
Yes, it is. So that's the first thing I guess we should tell the listeners is get ready. Once again, you're going to have to devote some time. It's 20 hours long. But if you like memoirs, or not really memoirs, if you like biographies, this is super in-depth, and it provides you with tons and tons of kind of backstories and details and behind-the-scenes stuff. To me, it was fascinating. It was very interesting. All the people she rubbed shoulders with, all the people that she came into contact with, how she became a star. I didn't know. I would say 95% of the stuff that's in the book, I had no idea. I did not know. Because I didn't know a lot about Natalie Wood before I read this biography.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you was how much about her you knew. Because you know how
Very little.
sometimes you kind of have a fascination with certain people or old actors or actresses.
Right.
And through your life, you've watched their movies, you've read articles or books about them. Well,
right, and she just wasn't one of them.
Right.
Nothing against her. I just had never had any interest. I didn't know anything about her. I mean, I think I had heard of her name, and I knew she was in Rebel Without a Cause, but other than that, I didn't know anything about her.
Yeah, and I think I told you this, but over the Christmas break, I was just bored. And I started looking through your list in Audible, and I saw that you had listened to the Natalie Wood.
Yes.
And literally the thought that came to my mind was, I know nothing about her.
Right.
Because I thought this will be interesting.
And I did, when I went to purchase the book, I hesitated because I was like, oh, I don't know if this, I don't know much about her. I don't know if this will be interesting. But then I started reading the reviews, and it intrigued me. Some of the reviews and some of the things people were saying. And really, honestly, the thing that I know the most about is that Robert Wagner has always been a suspect in her drowning. And I've always been fascinated by that. Like, what's it like for him always kind of being a suspect, and people being suspicious of him, and because we grew up watching Heart to Heart.
That's what I was getting ready to say. So
that's how we know Robert Wagner is. We grew
Right.
up and him and Stephanie Powers, and we grew up watching Heart to Heart. And of course, I always liked Robert Wagner because he was, what was his name on the show? I cannot remember. Jonathan. Yeah, Jonathan Hart.
And what was her name?
Stephanie Powers was, Mrs. Hart. I don't remember.
She's gorgeous.
I forgot about that. I forgot about Max. But honestly, that's the only thing I really knew was that.
Was it Jennifer?
She Jennifer.
Wasn't it Jennifer?
Maybe it was Jennifer.
Okay, I might be wrong. Sorry.
But anyway, I just knew that there was a mystery surrounding her death. And that's really because in the reviews, they said it really gets into the night that she died. And of course, you have to wait till the end of the book to get to all that. But that was fascinating to me, reading about what led up, all the events that led up to the night of her death, and then what's happened since.
Yeah. So I'm same boat as you. My only, I have no idea who she was, except that there was a link to Robert Wagner, which, just like you, my first thought was, oh, well, I watched him at Heart to Heart all those years, and he always had that. He's one of these suave, Cary Grant type actors,
Yes,
very. He fit the role perfectly. So to begin the book, the author discusses Natalie's mother almost to a point that you just are like,
Very
enough
in
about the
depth.
mother. But she has to, because in order to understand who Natalie Wood is and why she ended up being an actress, and just to even understand her life, you have to understand the role her mother
Yes,
played.
her mother is a vital character in her life.
A major
And I will say
influence.
this, if you're listening to this podcast right now and you begin to listen to the Natalie Wood book or read it, don't give up, okay? Because I'm with you.
Yeah.
A few I'm like, okay, enough about the mother. They totally go into their Russian heritage and the mother's background. And honestly, I wanted to stop reading after a while because I was like, oh my gosh, enough about the mother. Enough about I was kind of getting tired of it. I wanted to get to Natalie's acting career and things.
Yeah.
I felt like I was bogged down. But like I'm saying, I'm telling the listeners, stick with it because it gets really good.
Now, I'm not sure, but so her mom reminded me so much of another famous actress whose mother was the same way, and I want to say it was Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh, I'm not
So
sure.
I read a biography on Elizabeth Taylor, and I just felt like it was a mirror of, of the story. Yeah, so you need to read that sometime. And if I'm wrong, I'll do a disclaimer in a future podcast. But anyway, so the mother, how do we put this in a nutshell?
She's living vicariously through her daughter.
There you go.
She wanted to be a famous actress, I believe, and it never happened for her. And for some reason,
I think she wanted to be a ballerina.
or a dancer. And for some reason, because her dreams didn't come true, she was going to move heaven and hell, right? To make sure that her daughter became a famous either dancer, actress, somebody in the spotlight. She was determined that her daughter was going to be famous.
Okay, and all that was fueled by an encounter she had with a fortune teller.
Yes, this fortune teller, it really plays into the story.
So a fortune teller tells her that her second child, tells the mother that she's going to have, a second child, and she's going to be beautiful and she's going to be famous. Well, tell this to a woman who probably is already star crazy or has these grand notions in her head. And I feel like the way they described her is that she had one of these personalities that was just really over the top.
Yes, just obsessive.
Like just had these grand illusions of grandeur.
And they said she was obsessed with stardom. She was obsessed with actors and actresses. Matter of fact, didn't Natalie have a picture of a famous actress over her crib growing
I think they said she had pictures all along her wall of movie stars. And then when she would take Natalie to movies constantly.
And we're talking when Natalie was like 3 and 4 years old. She's already taken her to the movies. She's already filling her heads with, you're going to be that lady on the screen.
Yeah, and they said that.
Didn't she already take her to ballet lessons when she was that young?
I believe, I can't remember at what point. She did take ballet lessons, but I don't remember
from a
at what
very young age.
But at one point during the movies back in the day, so I guess if she was born in 38, this would have been like in the early 40s. Apparently they said they would turn the projector at the end of the movie or whatever it was they did, and the mom would tell her, they're filming you now.
Yeah.
They're looking at you, and she would always tell her.
Yeah, from the time she was born, Natalie's head was filled with her mom whispering in her ear, you're beautiful, you're going to be famous, that's going to be you. She had it drilled into her head from day one. So you talk about pressure to perform.
And Natalie, they say all through the book, Natalie had the type of personality that she wanted to please people.
Yes.
And so she was a conformist. She always wanted to conform and do things that please people. So she never ever questioned her mother. Well, she's too young to realize what was going on, number one. But even as she got older, not until she became a teenager did she ever question her mother or motives
So it's kind of a bad combination. You got a mother who's hovering and pushy and super driven, and then you've got the daughter who's a people pleaser and will do anything her mom says, anything to please her, anything, very obedient, and it doesn't turn out well.
Right. And if anybody's wondering, where's the father? There is a father in the picture, but he is, the wife apparently is pretty overbearing, and she wears the pants in the family, and the way they describe him in the book is he's sitting back in a corner drinking vodka.
Yeah. He basically is an alcoholic. He feels, I think he has no role. He has no, Natalie, pretty much, once she gets her first acting job, she's the breadwinner of the family.
Yeah, I just picture the mom to being one of these nagging wives. And so her personality was so big and so large and looming, he kind of shrunk into the
Yes,
background.
he's just kind of he's proud of Natalie,
Yeah.
but he and the mom fight so much. He
Mhm.
gets out of the house as much as he can. He does have a job on the movie set, like building sets and things, I
Mhm.
believe, like a carpenter.
Yeah.
But it's really more just to keep him busy. I don't think it pays a lot, and that's another pressure Natalie had. She was the breadwinner, is always like, where's the next check going to come from? Where's the next movie going to
Mhm.
be? You know.
So I just wrote down just a few of her career highlights,
Okay.
and so the very first movie she did was called Happy Land, and she was 4 years old. And
Mhm.
of course, it was just a scene where she's on a sidewalk, and I think she's eating an ice cream cone or something
Right.
like that. And of course, the mom had strategically made sure she was on a movie set at a location where a producer would see her, and then that's how she got the part for this
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, she was always
Um,
maneuvering
yeah,
Natalie in front of
to be in the right place at the
she
right
always tried to
time.
make sure she's in the right place at the right time with the most influential
Yeah.
people.
So, but obviously, what her mom did worked because
It worked.
she got her in the
Mhm.
movie. So, like I said, she was 4 when she did Happy Land. Well, someone from that movie remembered her, and she got to audition when she was 8 years old for Miracle on 34th Street.
Mhm. And I didn't
Now,
realize that till I read this book that she was in Miracle on 34th
so
Street.
I'm curious, have you seen that movie?
I have, but it's been so long ago, and I know it's a classic, and I know some
Mhm.
people watch it every single
Yeah.
Christmas, but it's been so long, and I've only seen bits and pieces, so I don't remember her being in it.
I know they play it every year. It's like one of the staples that you see on TV
Mhm.
every year. You know they're going to play Miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Okay, I know I've only seen bits and pieces
I
of
know
it.
there's probably people all across the United States that remember her from that movie.
Yeah.
That love. There's people that love the movie, I'm sure, and they
Right.
probably loved Natalie. You know,
Mhm.
they probably had a connection with her because of the movie. Okay, so in her teenage years, we're going to go forward a little bit here. She earned a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for her performance in Rebel Without a Cause.
Mhm.
Okay, have you seen that one?
Okay, so yes, as I was reading this book, I'm like, I'm getting more interested in her life because I'm reading all about it. So I went ahead and found it on Netflix or somewhere. I
Hmm.
don't remember. I may have even rented it off TV, and I started watching it. Actually, I watched the whole thing. Yeah,
Really?
not just to watch her, but also to watch James Dean because they
Mhm.
talk about James Dean quite a bit in the book.
Mhm.
And to me, the stories about him are just as interesting as the stories about
Yeah,
Natalie.
I agree.
Oh my goodness, he sounded like the biggest nuisance. Like it says he sounded immature.
Yeah.
He was always doing crazy stuff on the set. I mean, obviously, he was like this legendary actor and people loved him. But according to this biography, he was a pain in the butt. He was always.
So here's the thing about James Dean.
Mhm.
You have these two categories of actors. You've got your Hollywood West Coast who just go in and just do their roles, and then
Mhm.
you have these people who came from New York acting,
The actor
the actor studio,
and have method actors.
and they have method acting, and they're a
Yes.
whole different breed. And
Yes.
so he was one of these New York method actors.
Yes.
And so one of the funniest parts of the book to me was these seasoned actors come in getting ready to do the next scene, but they're watching him perform, and he's doing something to get into character. He's like on the
Yeah.
floor, rolled up into a fetal
Yes.
position, and they just start laughing their heads off. They're like, "What
Yes.
is this guy doing?" And they think it's a
Mhm.
bunch of baloney.
Right.
So I thought that was funny. And then they mentioned, several people in the book mentioned that they thought that James Dean guy was just weird.
Yes.
You know, so
a lot of the actors thought he was weird, that his
Mhm.
methods were weird, and just the way they described him.
they thought he was
he's-
weird, or they worshipped him.
Yes, and that's what I was going to say about Natalie.
Mhm.
She worshipped him. She thought he was like an acting god.
Yes,
Because he was a method actor from New York. She felt insecure around him, and she wanted to learn from him.
So here's the impression I got.
Okay.
Joy. I want to see if you agree with me.
All right.
And I know this is about Natalie, but it's hard not to
I
talk about
know,
James
but there's
Dean.
quite a bit about James Dean, so we need
Yeah.
to talk about him too.
So here was my impression. If you went to the movie during the 50s, because it came out in 1955,
Mhm.
and you saw James Dean up on the screen,
Mhm.
the guys thought he was cool, and they
Yep.
wanted to be like him, and the girls fell in love with him.
Yeah.
But if you were an actor, you
Yes.
thought he was weird.
Yes, if you're an actor,
Unless
he was
you were one of the few
annoying
like
and
Natalie.
weird. Unless you're like Natalie, who thought, "Ooh, method actors are, they're
Well,
like
she had never
cutting
been,
edge," you know.
She had never really been exposed to anything like that, so to
Right.
her, it was all something new.
Yeah, but they never dated. Matter of fact, he was heartbroken. They talk about how he was heartbroken because he had been engaged to a girl, and the girl's parents, I believe, had made her break up with him because they just thought he wasn't good for her. It's been a while since I've read it.
And
he was heartbroken because she had broken up with him, right?
Yeah, something like
and
that.
she was
I
an
can't
actress,
remember.
I think.
Well, okay, let me ask you this. So I always knew he died early at a young age. The one thing that totally caught me off guard, because I had forgotten this, he died before that movie was ever released.
Yes, to me that's another thing that's so sad.
Yeah.
And I always wondered if
very odd that all that
I always
happened.
wondered if he had not died before when Rebel Without a Cause came on, he had already died in the car crash.
Yeah.
And I know like the sales were through the roof.
So do you think that made the movie even more iconic?
That's what I'm wondering.
Okay.
That's what I'm wondering is I still think the movie would have been a hit, but would it have been the huge smash that it was?
Exactly.
If he hadn't died, is my question.
It's the same old scenario. You have a really famous actor who dies young, and they become this legendary icon that people almost idolize and worship, and you wonder if that hadn't happened, would they be immortalized the way they are?
Yes.
I don't know in some cases.
And that and Giant, I think. I think it was the next movie to come out. Was he alive when Giant came out?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, I just think it's so sad that movie was such a big hit and he wasn't there to enjoy the success.
Oh.
But everybody was saying, everything I've read, that all the critics, everyone in the industry was saying he was the next hot thing. He was the next great
I do know
talent.
he was getting touted big time by people in the industry that he was the next big actor, and that he was highly wanted for movies and things. So, okay, so I need to mention that this script was the first script that Natalie actually wanted to do.
Yes.
Before she'd been given scripts, she had to do them.
They were all fluff pieces. She's always a little girl. Her characters didn't have much depth. Yeah, you're right. This is the first character she actually thought had depth and that she actually wanted to play. And she was worried about auditioning and getting the part. Like, she worried and fretted over it for a long time.
Okay, so moving on. Next, and this is what blows my mind. And we were talking about one of the biggest iconic movies in the 50s, Rebel Without a Cause, and now we go into 1961, West Side Story. I mean, my goodness. So here we are, another huge
smash hit.
She is Maria, who is, once again, I've never seen West Side Story. Have you?
So when I first started teaching Spanish,
I had a feeling you'd say
I showed it to and actually I know some some music teachers, like musical theater type stuff, that they'll show it to students, the original. But I remember, and don't even ask me where I got the movie. It was probably back then, it was probably a VCR tape. But I showed this to my Spanish classes one year, one of the first years I taught. And they were okay, but it's older and the music's kind of cheesy to them, and they just didn't really get into it. So honestly, I think it only showed it one year. So yes, I've seen it because I showed it to my Spanish classes.
So maybe it's harder for today's kids to connect with it.
And this is like 20 years ago when I showed this, but they just couldn't connect with the music or the actor, so I just never showed it again. But I have seen it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, apparently the critics thought she did a good job in that.
Well, here's one thing too that I didn't know that the book brought out, that she was a decent singer and that she was recorded doing all the scenes, but the studio wasn't happy and they did a voiceover. They had another actress sing all the parts, and they said that just crushed her.
Yeah.
She was so disappointed that they didn't use her voice, and I didn't know that wasn't her voice in the movie.
Yeah.
Until I read this book.
Yeah. Okay, so also in 1961, Splendor in the Grass. Now,
I've never seen that.
And for some reason, I want to say Montgomery Clift was in that. And once again, I may be completely wrong about this. I wish I'd have done a little bit more research. But when I read the Liz Taylor biography, she was really good friends with Montgomery Clift. And so I remember reading a lot about Splendor in the Grass. But once again, I've never seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that
And then in 1963, she was in a movie called Love with a Proper Stranger. And that's where she met Warren Beatty, and they co-starred together. But now during all of this, she's a teenager and she's missed and she's.
Just about Warren Beatty.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I just think this is funny because she talks about how vain he was.
Yeah, they acted like he was another.
Just so vain. Well, You're So Vain by Carly Simon, isn't that song supposed to be about Warren Beatty?
Oh, I thought it was about Mick Jagger.
No. Everything I've ever read said that You're So Vain, that song was written about Warren Beatty.
Warren Beatty?
Because he
Where did I get
dated
Mick Jagger?
Carly Simon.
Really?
Yes, they were a thing.
Oh, I just
And then
can't
Warren
picture
Beatty
that.
and Natalie Wood were a thing. And that's why I was cracking up, because she kept talking about how vain he was. He was always looking in the mirror.
Oh my goodness.
And always looking at his hair. I'm not that good looking to always, but anyway, she just said he was so full of himself, and I was cracking up because I was well, that's why the song was written about him.
That's why I like reading these biographies because you're getting glimpses into all these.
You're getting an
inside
look at behind the scenes.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, what I was getting ready to say was, she's a teenager, and one thing in her life that she feels like she's missing is just growing the normal common experiences that teenagers get to experience. She feels like she's missing out,
and she is, because she's
always she's at
memorizing
the
her lines. She practically lives at the studio.
Yeah, and since they had a law that if you were under 18 years old and you were an actress or not, you had to always be accompanied by a chaperone, and so they said she was never left alone. They said even when she went to the bathroom, she had someone with her. So she was very sheltered, very secluded, and isolated. But so she talks her mom into. She says, "Hey, I want to go to school. I want to go to high school." So she goes to high school, and she actually graduates in 1956.
Right.
And so she does get to experience a little bit of the high school life, but she did say that she also had to deal with people who treated her differently because she was a movie star.
And she was so famous.
And she also had to leave school for weeks at a time because she'd have a film to do or a project to do.
And there is a small little story about Robert Redford. Went to the same high school as she did, and
I didn't see that.
He was rude to her. He was in charge of.
Oh, you said Robert Redford.
Oh yeah.
Who did you say?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Who did you say?
Robert Redford.
Okay, I thought you said Wagner.
Oh no, Robert Redford.
She had an encounter with Robert Redford,
he was
and
kind of rude to her because he looked down on actors at the time when they at the high school together.
They made it sound like he didn't know who she was.
He did. Well, I don't remember if he knew or not.
I thought they said he didn't realize who she was.
Maybe he didn't.
He may have. I can't
But
remember.
years later, she said he apologized to her.
Yes, and they ended up doing some projects.
And they ended up doing
together
some projects together. Yeah.
Okay, so she did graduate from Van Nuys High School in 1956, and then in 1958. She was the leading lady to Frank Sinatra in Kings Go Forth. Do we want to talk about Frank Sinatra?
Yes. Okay. I do want to talk about Frank Sinatra because according to this book, if you want to believe this book, Frank Sinatra's huge. He's a legend. We both know that. We both know he's in the Rat Pack.
It's kind of like he's king. He was king of Vegas, and
But basically, this is the thing that disturbed me the most about the book was. They basically say in the book that her mom prostituted her out.
Yeah.
In other words, if her mom thought an industry insider or someone famous like Frank Sinatra could further her career, her mom would basically, in not so many words, but imply to these people that her daughter was available.
Well, I think what happened was he showed interest in her daughter, and then he asked her to come see him, and then her mom was like, sure, and even though she was unchaperoned,
and we're talking,
said,
this is when she was like 15. Was she 15 or 16 at this point?
I think she might have been 14.
She was yeah, you're right. She was super young. I'm going to say she was 14, 15 at the oldest, and her mom and Frank, they believe, had a discussion that she would go over there and get quote unquote singing lessons. And we're led to believe, and so her mom would make her get dressed up and wear a dress, and it seems like she'd make sure her hair was a certain way, and she would drop her off and leave her unchaperoned, even though she's not ever allowed to be alone. But when she went to Frank Sinatra's house, she would drop her off and let her stay for hours and hours, and we're led to believe that they had an affair.
Yeah, and I have to agree. That was one
And
of the
he
more
was
disturbing
like
parts
in
of
his
the book.
was he in his 40s at this point?
I don't know. He was
Or late
much,
30s.
much
He
older
was
than
old
her.
enough to be her dad, and we're just
Yes.
led to believe that they had an affair. And it's very today he would be in jail if this
Yeah.
is true. To whoever are Frank Sinatra fans, maybe they're sitting there saying that's not true or whatever. I'm just saying if that is true today, he would be in jail.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And like you said, her mom, as long as someone could further her career, and especially someone like him that had that much pull in Hollywood, she didn't care. Yeah.
But on the flip side, the biography makes it sound like
he
that
became
Natalie,
like a father figure.
that he became a father figure to her, and that Natalie adored him. They said he was very protective of her, and apparently they said Natalie absolutely adored him.
And so for years to come, she would be on dates with different people, or she'd be in a relationship with someone, and every so often they would mention that someone was following them, and she knew it was one of Frank's men following her, watching her. But a lot of it was because he was so obsessive with people, and it was his way of watching her and protecting her.
He would hire or have his
He
men
would have his men
follow
follow
her, which is creepy.
Yeah. Okay, so a turning point in Wood's life that the book mentions was when she saw the film A Streetcar Named Desire. The book said she was transformed and in awe of director Elia Kazan and Vivian Lee's performance. And have you seen A Streetcar Named Desire?
You know, I have seen. I want to say I went to a play. And watched the play.
We went to Little Theater at Fort
We went
Smith.
to Little Theater and saw it in a play, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, we did. Because I remember I knew Brett.
Remember Maggie? And you knew the character playing Brett.
Yes, I remember that. So, apparently
and it's so dramatic. Yeah, I enjoyed the play, but it was so serious.
So when she saw that film, they just said she was just in awe of the performances. And Vivian Lee actually was like an idol to her, and I'm a big Vivian Lee fan.
Me too.
Of course, we love Gone with the Wind. That's one of our favorite movies. We ought to mention.
Yeah.
So we love Vivian Lee.
Love her performance in it.
Okay, so in the mid '60s, this is kind of her hiatus, or I don't know if is that the right word? It's her high point.
The height of her career.
The height of her career was in the '60s, and says she was one of the biggest Hollywood stars, along with Elizabeth Taylor and Audrey Hepburn. Were you kind of surprised that Audrey Hepburn wasn't really mentioned in the book? Because if she really was one of the bigger stars, they mentioned Elizabeth Taylor a few times, but not Audrey.
I think they mainly kept the focus on her.
I don't know that they ran in the same circles.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say too is they really portrayed Natalie in a very positive light.
Yeah.
They were talking about how she really was kind-hearted and that how professional. She treated everyone around her with kindness and respect, and she was always on time. She always knew her lines. They said like she was the model actress. She always did exactly what they needed her to do. And I just think that's cool that no matter how famous she got or no matter how big her name got, they said no matter what, she was always kind to everybody around her.
Now, I hate to pop the balloon.
Am I forgetting something?
Well, there was a point, they talked about that. What you said is absolutely correct. They talk about that a lot. But there was a period in her life where she kind of started having a little bit of a meltdown.
I forgot about that.
She fired all of her agents. Anybody that had anything to do with her career, she fired them. They said she broke her contract off with whatever movie studio she was at the time and refused to do the movie.
Yeah.
So there was a period where she had kind of
I forgot about that. Yeah, I think she had just been everybody's puppet for so long.
I think she finally got to the point she's like, I've had it.
She just got to a breaking point. It's like, I'm starting afresh, I'm starting new, and you're right, she did fire everybody.
And I looked at that as a good thing, because
before she was finally taking control of her life.
It was like she was a puppet before. But once I think she started truly seeing, hey, I'm a person, I can make decisions in my life that are going to affect my life. Okay, so 1979, she wins a Golden Globe for Best Actress in From Here to Eternity. And it wasn't, there was a movie From Here to Eternity, but what she won the award for was a mini-series remake. And of course, when I think of From Here to Eternity, I'm sorry, the only thing that comes to my mind is a man and a woman rolling around on the in the sand in the surf.
So my memory is
That's
we
what
were
we
really
thought.
young. We were young, and it was a mini series. And I don't know if you remember this. It like came
Oh.
on like every night for like a week,
Oh, so
and
that was
I
probably
remember,
her.
yes, Mom and Dad were watching it on the
Mhm.
old, big tube TV, and I just remember it was like a mini series. But I remember the beach and like who was the main
Yeah.
guy in it?
I can't think of his
I
name. He's
can't
very, he's
think. He's
somebody very
very
famous.
famous. I cannot think.
Yeah. It wasn't Richard
Mitchell.
Burton, was it?
Oh no.
No.
I can't think who it is either, but anyway, I remember seeing
Mhm.
like aren't they like running across the beach or something?
I don't know. I was just thought that
And
was funny
wasn't it
that's the
about
only thing
like
that I
World
can
War?
remember.
Was it a World War II movie?
I
like
couldn't tell you anything other than they rolled around on the beach.
Something about I'm wanting to say it's a World War II movie, and the guys I don't know.
Anyway,
military.
apparently she's pretty good in it. She did win a Golden Globe for Best
Okay.
Actress in it. Okay, so 1980, The Memory of Eva Riker. That was the last completed production she ever did. All right, 1981, she was filming a sci-fi film called Brainstorm, and that's it. They were actually they were taking the weekend off from shooting. Her and her husband, Robert Wagner, and her co-star in the movie, Christopher
Now they already
Walken.
divorced. Didn't they divorce and then get back together?
Yeah, we're going to actually mention
Okay.
that. Right now, we're just kind of hitting her career highlights. But during the filming of this movie, they took the weekend off from filming. She's with RJ's, that's what they called him, Robert Wagner, and Christopher Walken. And that's when they take the boat out to Catalina Island and she drowns.
Right.
And I thought it was interesting. They did release the film, but they had to. It said the ending was rewritten. They cut her character out of at least 3 scenes, and they used body doubles for important scenes that had not been filmed yet. So that was how they completed the movie. And then the sad thing was in February of 1982, which would have been just a few months away because she died in November of 81. February of 82, she was scheduled to make her stage debut. She'd never been on stage before in Anastasia.
And this was one of her dreams was to be in that because she's of Russian heritage.
Yes.
Of course, Anastasia is a huge story. If you're Russian,
Isn't
that's
it
a
like
huge part of their history.
The Tsar or the family was attacked, and, and there was all these legends about one daughter's. The whole family
all
was
the family was
killed.
massacred.
They were all massacred except for supposedly one of the daughters.
The youngest
escaped,
daughter supposedly
Anastasia.
survived.
And so she felt this very, very deep connection to the character because of her Russian heritage.
Yes.
And she felt like she was born to play that part.
Yes.
So here she was.
And she's fluent in Russian.
Yeah, so here she was. She was going to get to play this dream role in the following February.
Yes, that was her dream, was to be on stage and to play a Russian character. And Anastasia, of course, is one of the biggest names in Russian history.
Yes, so that was very sad to me that she
Yes.
never got to do that. Okay, so just real quickly, so that was pretty much her career highlights, which, pretty impressive, just
Yeah,
thinking
she
about
had
it.
a very impressive career.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned earlier that she was married to Robert Wagner twice. Okay, and of course they had a very highly publicized marriage because they were both so famous. So she married him the first time, December of 1957, and they divorced April of 1962. So what is that for about 5-6 years they were married the first time. And then after that, and about 7 years later, in 1969, she marries British producer Richard Gregson. They have a daughter, Natasha, who they name after her. And in the book, it's kind of sad. It's almost like she feels like she has a child, and this child's going to actually have a chance to have a childhood that she never had.
And one thing we should mention too is they didn't want her to keep her real name of Natasha. They wanted her to have the stage name of Natalie because they thought it sounded more American.
Yeah.
And she didn't like it because she felt like she was losing her identity, which she was.
And the whole book, I guess this is a good time to mention this, the whole book talks about how she never felt like she had an identity.
Yes, because she went from having a Russian name, Natasha, which I can't pronounce her last name, to Natalie Wood, which is something that
There was a famous producer that was one of the famous producers' last name, and she didn't like it.
Yeah, so she stuck with the name she hates, and it's not her Russian heritage.
Think about this. You have your name changed. You're at a very impressionable age of the age of 4. And from that point on, all she knows is the roles she plays in life. So she never felt like she knew who she was as a person. She only knew who she was on film.
According to the biography, whatever role she was playing, that's kind of who she felt she was.
Yes. And
she would take on that persona during that time period, and that's kind of who she was, whoever she was portraying.
And so people that knew her well would say Natalie, the best acting job I ever see you do is when you portrayed Natalie Wood.
Yeah.
Because they said, even when fans would come up, they said it was like she would become this different person.
Yeah, a switch would come on and she would become the star, Natalie Wood.
Yeah. Okay, so she marries this British producer, Richard Gregson. They have the daughter, Natasha, who was born 1970, the same year we were born. I thought that was kind of cool.
Okay.
And then in 1972, she remarries RJ. And then they have a daughter, Courtney, who was born in 1974. Okay, so, and then we've already talked about the disturbing relationship she had with Frank Sinatra as, as a teenager. We think that's a little...
It's gross.
It's gross. Yeah. But the most disturbing part of the book was her sister alleges that she was raped when she was 16 by a very famous actor.
And I forgot about that.
Supposedly it was very brutal, lasted for hours, and it just...
Matter of
absolutely
fact,
horrendous.
Didn't her mom didn't even want to take her. She told her mom it happened, and her mom didn't want to take her to the hospital because she said, no, the doctors will be asking questions and the police might get involved. And because the guy that she accused of raping her was such a famous actor.
Yeah, they said he was so powerful.
Such a powerful man, and I guess we just won't say his name. I guess...
Yeah, you can Google on the internet.
You can Google and figure it out. Yeah. But that's what made me so angry at the mom. She was more interested in furthering Natalie. She's like,
she was worried that if people found out this happened, it might hurt her chances for future roles.
You might not ever get another role. You'll be blacklisted in Hollywood. She was more concerned about Natalie continuing on and furthering her career than being raped.
Yeah,
brutally raped.
And what just makes me sick is the mom and the sister, supposedly, according to the book, were sitting out in the car. Natalie was led to believe, according to the book, that she was going for an audition in a hotel with a very, very famous actor in Hollywood, someone who'd been around for a long time, a much older man. And they said the sister Lana remembers sitting in a car for hours, and then when Natalie came back out, just
crying, disheveled, telling them. Did they end up going to the hospital or not?
I can't remember.
I don't think they did. But apparently, according to the book, she told several of her close friends.
Yeah. My sources said she told at least 5 different people, close friends.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Now, in 2018, Lana Wood, which is her younger sister, she started a podcast about Natalie's life. So that's something, if our listeners, especially those of you who just love Natalie Wood and probably know more about her than we do, if you're really interested, this would be a good podcast to do. And unfortunately, I didn't write down the name of it, but all you'd have to do is Google Lana Wood podcast and you would find it. But it's a 12-part series about her life, and they say they really do go into a lot of details about her death and things like that. So, like we've already said, she died under mysterious circumstances at the age of 43.
And one thing we haven't brought up that is a theme throughout, from page 1, I believe, all the way through the whole book. When her mother talked to a fortune teller, the fortune teller said,
how could I forget this?
Your second born will be beautiful and famous. She'll be known around the world. She'll be known as a great beauty. But she said, but I see deep, dark water.
Yeah, she always said stay away from dark water.
She said stay away from dark
here's
water.
Where I got confused, because I kept understanding it that the mother was told to stay away from dark water.
Yes.
But I think the mother took it as it could be me or Natalie. So Natalie was told to always stay away from dark water.
I know. I'm a little confused now because it's been a while since I've read the book. But it seems like when I read it, the mother thought that the gypsy was talking to her, so she was terrified. She would never go anywhere with deep dark water.
The mother thought it was to her.
But the longer she lived, the more she realized, wait a second, maybe she wasn't talking about me. Maybe she was talking about one of my kids.
So the bottom line is Natalie was terrified of water. Terrified.
They make a point throughout the whole book. I mean, there's numerous times where they talk about Natalie being deathly afraid of deep, dark water.
So anytime she had a scene that had anything to do with water, there were numerous witnesses who said she literally
would
have panic attacks. She would start screaming. She was terrified. And the whole reason that the author kept bringing this up over and over and over again was because one of the stories on the night she died was that that she got into a dinghy to go to the
Yeah,
island, and they
that
said she would have never
yeah,
done
that
that.
in the middle of the night, dark, that she gets off the boat and gets into a dinghy, and of course everyone that knows her really well is like, no way, she was terrified
And
of the
after
water.
reading the book, to be honest with you, I'm surprised she ever went out on that yacht as
Me
terrified as she was
too.
of water.
That's one thing Robert Wagner, but that was one problem they had at first because she was so terrified of water, and he loved the water.
Yeah.
And he wanted to get a boat, and they did, and that's one of the things they did together was they would boat around in their big boat.
One of the things that it to me kind of answered that question, because I kept saying, why is she out in the ocean if she's that scared? Well, one of her friends made the comment, in Natalie's mind, there was a difference of being on the water and in the water.
Yeah,
like she
that's
felt
true.
safe as long as she was on
As long
the
as
boat.
she was on the
as long
boat.
as she didn't have to get.
But while it also mentions several times that every time they would drop anchor or go somewhere and swim, that she never swam.
Yes.
She always stayed on the boat. She did not want to get in the water.
Right. Okay, so that's pretty much, how the book ended. She died under mysterious circumstances at the age of 43 on a weekend boating trip to Catalina Island aboard his yacht called the Splendor. It was never determined how she entered the water, and the only other people on the boat were Christopher Walken and her RJ and the captain Dennis Davern. On November 28th, her body was recovered at 8 a.m. and they found it a mile away from the boat, and they said that the inflatable dinghy was beached nearby. On the autopsy, they did say there was bruising on the body and arms and abrasions to the left cheek. And like I said, it's so depressing. I don't even like talking about this, but supposedly the night that she died, they said there was a lot of flirting going on. That they said there wasn't. Okay, so they went to eat dinner on the island the night before, and the waitresses both, they were both questioned,
testified,
and both of their statements said that there was a lot of flirting going on between Natalie and
a
Christopher,
lot of drinking.
and they said there was a lot of drinking, and they said they could just feel the tension at the table, and they felt like that Robert was very jealous.
Yes, and I don't repeat it here because it's pretty crass, but according to one or two of the witnesses at this restaurant, that he broke a wine bottle and yelled at Christopher Walken, basically saying...
She broke the wine
bottle.
bottle.
I read that Robert Wagner wrote it. I'll have to go back and reread it, but I could swear they said that Robert Wagner broke it.
Because a couple of witnesses said that they thought she did it, and it looked like she was doing it for drama.
Maybe,
but,
maybe.
We'll have to go back and
reread it. But basically, without repeating it, because it's too crass, but Robert Wagner accused Christopher Walken of wanting to be with Natalie. Wanting to,
but apparently the tension was so bad at their table that the waitress asked to be excused from the table, and they brought in someone else to wait on them that night.
Yes, and even they said Natalie Wood was very apologetic to Christopher Walken and like yelling at RJ, "Why are you acting like this?" And another witness says that she saw Christopher Walken and Natalie Wood holding hands under the table. Do you remember that? So that was, if that's true, oh my goodness, holding hands right there. And RJ is super jealous type guy.
So they reopened the case like in 2011, and they said that Robert Wagner was a person of interest. But here's the thing, Joy,
he's got to be in his 80s.
No, I want to say he's in his early
Maybe in
90s.
His 90s.
I'm almost sure he's like 94. He's really old.
Yeah.
So I was thinking it wouldn't matter if they ever, nothing's going to happen now.
I don't
the guy's
think so
94
either.
years old. So
her sister just wants justice, and she really feels like that Robert Wagner was somehow responsible. And the part that was disturbing to me was that there was a boat nearby, and that they could hear a woman yelling out, "Help, help, I'm drowning." And they thought, was this a joke? Is this like
and they heard two men,
is this a prank?
They said they heard two men taunting the woman.
Yes, that, to me, that was the most chilling part. There was a witness that said on the boat nearby that he could hear two women taunt. There was a woman in the water. She's yelling, "Help me, help me, I'm drowning," for like 10 minutes. And that he can hear two male voices taunting her. If that is true, that is chilling.
Yeah, that part was very chilling to me. I couldn't even imagine. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, there's always two sides to the story.
Yeah.
Both of his children, to this day, adamantly support him and say there is no way in a million years he would have ever harmed a head-on.
I believe that, too, that he truly loved her, but I also believe people do stuff they would never do when they're very, very drunk,
Yeah, I
very
mean, if he
inebriated.
was in a drunken rage the way the captain says he
Yeah.
was, yeah, you do things that you would never dream you'd do in a million years. But
Another interesting thing is that the captain, well, he's dead now, but
oh, he did die.
yeah, I'm pretty sure he died.
Oh,
Well, once again, I'll have to
I haven't heard that.
fact check.
Yeah, I don't
But,
think so.
well, the reason I think that's true, and we'll have to fact check, is because the sister says that he called her one night drunk, that the captain called her drunk and said, "I'm sorry, I've got to get this off my chest."
Yeah, I remember that.
But he heard a horrible fight that Robert in other words, he thinks Robert Wagner did hit her and throw her off the boat, according to him. And she said, I thought she said, well, now that he's dead, that's all I have to go by is that phone call.
Oh, well, it could be. It could
But
be.
anyway, but yeah, supposedly the captain called the sister just to, get it off his chest that
Well,
I know who did it. Robert Wagner did it.
Okay.
And that's why she reopened the case and doesn't want to let it go.
Yeah, I understand. So, in one of the daughters I saw in an interview, they said, we're tired of this. We just want our mother to be remembered for the work that she did and not for this tragedy.
I could see that.
And as if I was a daughter, I would feel the same way.
You've got this mother who has this amazing body of work, who's an incredible actress, but yet when people talk, just like me at the beginning, the first thing my mind goes to is her mysterious death instead of what she accomplished.
Toward
they want
her tragic.
They want people to remember her for her, the person she was, and the great movies she made, and not her mysterious death.
Yeah.
But like I said, it is fascinating to me that she was terrified of dark water her whole life, and how did she die? In dark water.
Yeah, it was.
Very, very eerie.
Yeah, I agree. So, I would recommend the book. It's very, very long, but to me, it was interesting enough that it kept me wanting to listen.
It's super in depth. You're going to learn everything you ever want to know about her. You're going to learn all about, the famous people she rubbed shoulders with. You're going to see her mom was kind of crazy. I do believe she's a little over the top crazy, but it is a fascinating book, and I would highly recommend it. I'm going to give it 5. Oh, do you have a rating word?
Let's give it. How many splendors do you give it?
Oh, okay. I'm going to give it 5 splendors in the grass.
Okay. I'm going to give it. I'll give it 4.5 just because I don't like so long books, but that's like we said, we've talked about this before.
Yeah, it was so well researched and so it was very well researched, and you can just tell whoever wrote the book just talked to so many different people and really got in, and I don't know, I just thought it was so interesting.
The only thing I want to add, and this was the thing that kept going through my mind, especially toward the end of the book, was people who strive for fame and fortune, there's always a price to pay. And in this case, I felt like the mother sacrificed her daughter's childhood.
Yeah,
So,
I feel like Natalie
now,
did not have a childhood.
Natalie did actually become interested in the role she played, but I felt like she sacrificed her daughter's childhood.
She did, and also one thing we haven't touched on is Natalie's anxiety and paranoia. She had dolls. Was it dolls or bears, or I can't remember now. She had a room full of animals.
They talked about it so much.
And they said,
was it tigers?
Yeah.
She went from dolls to tigers or something.
Like little stuffed tigers or something. And one part of the book said that she actually believed they talked to her, but I don't know how they know that.
So Joy's hitting on a very important aspect of the book that we have not mentioned, and that was that her life was riddled with anxiety,
fear and anxiety.
She could not be alone. She could not go to sleep without sleeping pills, and she at some point in her life she started seeing a psychiatrist.
Yes, so she paid a high price. She lost her childhood, and most of her life was full of fear and anxiety. I just think about these
people who, especially young girls, who their whole ambition in life is to become rich and famous, but I don't think people realize there's always a
price. There's always a trade-off and a price to pay.
Right.
But one good thing, it does say when she was married and just kind of being basically a stay-at-home mom and raising her kids, that's when she was the happiest. When she was a stay-at-home mom and raising her kids, that's when she was the happiest. And I'm sure that those kids have many happy memories with their mom. because she sounded like she was a really good mom.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess we've about
I think we've covered most
covered
of
about
it.
everything I could
Yeah.
possibly think to talk about Natalie Wood. So check out this book when you get a chance, and we will see you next time on
Twin Talk.